One moment, everyone. There we go. It says we're okay. Welcome. Good morning, everyone. And first thing I'd like to say, good to have everyone here. We had a little bump getting the netcast started, but it looks like everyone's here. And I would like to say, first off, it's a very good thing that Zen folks don't believe in time. And there's no getting older or younger in Zen. So I'd like to wish Daniela a happy non-birthday today. And everyone will join me in singing our happy non-birthday song. Happy non-birthday to you. Happy non-birthday to you. Happy non-birthday, Daniela. Happy non-birthday to you. Now on to Zazen business. I'd like to mention something about sitting that I've noticed with folks, and this is true if you go to Zen groups in a brick and mortar's place too. When the bell rings for Zazen, you are already sitting silently. Do not bow after the bells to start Zazen. You sit, you bow, and then you assume the position for sitting Zazen, and then when the bells ring, you sit right through without moving. You see, don't bow after the bells. And when Zazen is over and you hear the bells, then you bow again after the bells are rung. Okay? That's just a little point of Zeni procedure. Are you ready? Shingen, you're ready to go? If you've been here before, you know what to do, and if it's your first time, just follow along. Okay.
마가 한야 하라미타 신묘 간지자이보 서지오교진 한야 하라미타 지쇼겐도 한가이굴도 사이구야구 셔이시 시기구이구이 시기시기 서구시구구 서구시 시기주 소묘 시기야구분요시 셔이 지지쇼구 소구 쇼구 매즈구 구구 쇼구 소구 준세고구 주무시기무 주소묘시기무 준미비세 신미무시기쇼고메 소무 진가이나이치 우리시가이무며 야구무무며 진나이시무로시 야구무로시 진무구슈 매즈르무지 야구무 도고이무쇼도 보고다사다에 안야하라미타 오신고가이리 고무 요고호원리 일사이텐드무 소후교니 감사제쇼 고즈리 안야하라미타 고도고하 고고하라 삼야고 삼고다이 오지환야 아라미다 다이다이 진슈 다이다이 묘슈 다이무조슈 다이무도도노쇼노 조일사이구신 즈부고고 세즈환야 아라미다 주소코 세즈슈 와츠가제 가제 하라가제 아소가제 오지소아가 안야신요. The identity of relative and absolute. The mind of the great sage of India is intimately conveyed west and east, while human faculties are both wise or dull. In the way there are no northern nor southern ancestors. The subtle shore shines clear in the light, the branching streams flow in the dark. To be attached to things is primordial illusion. To encounter the absolute is not yet enlightenment. All spheres, every sense and feel, intermingling even as they shine alone, interacting even as they merge, yet keeping their places and expressions of their own. Sights differ primarily in shape and character, and sounds in harsh or soothing tones. The dark makes all words one. The brightness distinguishes good and bad phrases. The four elements return to their true nature as a child turns to its mother. Fire is hot, water is wet, wind moves, and the earth is dense. Eye and form, ear and sound, nose and smell, tongue and taste, the sweet and sour, each independent of the other, like leaves that come from the same root. And though leaves and roots must go back to the source, both roots and leaves have their own uses. Light is also darkness, but do not think of it as darkness. Darkness is light. Do not see it as light. Light and darkness are not one, not two, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Each has its own being, which is not different from its place and function. The relative fits the absolute as a box and its lid. The absolute meets the relative, like two arrow points that touch in midair. Hearing this, simply perceive what is, make no criterion. If you do not see the way, you do not see it even as you walk upon it. Walking forward in the way, you draw no nearer, progress no further. One who fails to see this truth is mountains and rivers away. Listen, those who would perceive this subtle matter. Live well your time by night and day. Buddha nature pervades the whole universe, reality existing right here and now. In reciting the heart of the Perfection of Great Wisdom Sutra and the identity of relative and absolute, we dedicate our sincere efforts to Shakyamuni Buddha, Honored One, the historical Buddha and teacher, and to those ancestral teachers, Eihei Dogen, Honored One, Soji Keizan, Honored One, all successive Honored Ones up until Zuigaku Rempo, Honored One, and Gudo Wafu, Honored One, and to all other Honored Ones throughout history, male and female Honored Ones whose names have been forgotten or left unsaid. We also dedicate these efforts to the three treasures, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, to all the awakened ones and teachers in all places and times. We especially seek tranquility and well-being for all creatures now suffering or ill in health. May they be serene through all their ills. May their lives be at peace and wisdom pervade the darkness of ignorance. We dedicate our hopes and aspirations to all victims of war and violence and natural events, to the injured and to all families touched by these tragedies, to the healing of hatred in all countries and among all peoples, to the wisdom and compassion of our world leaders, to the peace of the world and harmony of all beings. Thus let the harmful effects of words, thoughts, and actions be dispelled, and compassion bloom in perpetual spring. May we all realize and live the enlightened way together. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha, Rajna, Paramita.
Zazen? Zazen? have a long hint. Outside too. We will now have a little talk and zazen. You can relax and listen, or you can sit zazen during the talk, or a little of both. We have some tea here. You might join us. I have to confess, I serve tea to our guests, but I have coffee. You know, Japan is famous for the tea ceremony, but every morning I do the coffee ceremony. But I bow to my coffee maker every morning. Thank you. Good friend. Shingen, we're going to do the verse to open the sutras.
Okay.
Okay.
The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered, yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered, yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning. The Dharma, incomparably profound and infinitely subtle, is always encountered, yet rarely perceived. Now we see, hear, receive, and maintain this. May we all realize the Tathagata's true meaning.
Well, welcome everyone. We're going to continue today looking at some of the koans from the Book of Serenity, the Book of Equanimity, it is also called. And these are some of the koans we've danced with in the past month in our Beyond Words and Letters book club. I say dance because, as you know, I often say that emptiness is like a dance where there are two partners in the dance, but as everything gets moving, it all becomes one beyond one. There's no you, there's no me, there's the music, and we're all swept up. That's what koans are, so we dance koans. But I'd like to take a few moments at the start to talk again about the different way koans have been approached and sometimes misunderstood. Sometimes it's not a misunderstanding, sometimes it's just the different ways they've been taken. The first thing to tell you is most of these events are probably not historical. Some of them may be, but they're kind of like the story, I don't know, for people from the United States, of George Washington chopping down the cherry tree to show how honest he was. He told his father, "Yes, I cannot tell a lie." Did that actually happen historically? Well, it's something that has a truth about, let's say, what we in the United States would like to say is the American character. I don't think we're necessarily more truthful than other people, but that's a story that was, I don't want to say made up, but these are also stories that were largely written hundreds of years after the people in the stories would have lived. And they try to express something about our teachings that are captured within the story. Now, people think that they're all illogical, and that's not really true. What usually these stories convey is not our ordinary logic, not our ordinary way of seeing the world. And that's one of the reasons that they're a little weird. They're a little hard to get our heads around because you'll see it today. It's not our usual way of thinking about you, me, and the other thing. Now, when the koan started in China in the day, poetry and wit were highly valued. And not just in Zen, but a lot of the writing at the time would make references to famous songs, famous poems, inside jokes. And so a lot of the things that we really call head scratchers today are not because they're so mystical and otherworldly that they're beyond our ordinary understanding. It's just that they're thousand-year-old puns and jokes. As I like to say, you know, it's a little bit like if we took phrases like Thomas the Tank Engine, or get your bling bling, or shake your booty. That's already dated if you're not from the 70s. Or let's go back to the 60s. Do you remember sock it to me? You never heard. This was an American thing, you see. So if you suddenly had a koan and a guy made a reference back there, it's from a show, an American TV show in the 60s called Laugh-In, and they used to say, sock it to me. See? So, okay, so if you came across a koan and it had in there Thomas the Tank Engine and sock it to me, you might go, oh, wow, it's some, Thomas must be some great cosmic Buddha. Well, he is, but that's not the point. The point is these were poetic and humorous references, many of which we've been forgotten. Many, you know, it's 1,000 or 2,000, well, 1,000 years later, and the other side of the world from old China, so it's hard to understand many of these. But that doesn't mean that they didn't originally refer to something. They were references, subtle pointers to something. They meant something, you see. Now, that led to some extremes. A little later in history, kind of the wit and the poetry took over a bit, and a lot of Zen masters of the day were criticized for being too conscious of their poetic skills and their humorous jokes. And some people said, no, you're going overboard. You got to remember the point that is being made here. So that is one extreme you can go to. The poetry and the jokes are a pointer at something. A pointer at something, as we say, that cannot be pointed to because it's not separate from here. But that's another little something we'll get to. At other times, the people in China, as in the modern day, were too analytical and philosophical about these, so that they would try to analyze them as if they were analyzing a social problem in the newspaper or a mathematical equation. When I get people who on our forum, for example, who are very philosophical and they present their intellectual analysis of this, I try to toss a bucket of cold water on them a bit. Because the kind of approach, the kind of discussion you have here must be, you can tell it's from the heart and it has insight and it sees through the koan. It's not really a philosophical analysis, you see. That doesn't mean we go the other way, and some people say these koans are completely beyond all rational understanding. Simply not true. There is a Zen logic, but it's not our usual way of seeing things, because here in normal logic, there's a tree outside and I'm over here and we're separate things. In Zen logic, sometimes we would say, I'm here and there's a tree out there. By the way, I'm the tree is me, and also, what tree, what me? All those are true from our different ways of seeing, and all usually expressed in these koans. And if you're too philosophical, too analytical about it, not good. You kind of got to feel it. So in some ways, it's like really poetry and music. You can express it. There's a time to keep your mouth shut and a time to say something, and you can express it. But I can tell when someone's expressing it with a true insight and feeling into this, and when somebody's too much in the head or too confused. Other times, these koans really went in a couple of strange directions. Later in both the Soto and Rinzai tradition, and today in Japan, they just became something to memorize. You know, if you're a Zen priest, you just had to memorize them and regurgitate them, throw them up. And, you know, it's funny, there you have to pass a certain number in some of the Rinzai schools, and you have to answer the master. You go in the room, and you have to give an answer about the koan. And they also use poetic references. Well, you get the image, it's supposed to be spontaneous. The guy just has insight, and he suddenly knows the poetry. But actually, in the modern day, you couldn't turn out the priests like they turn them out today. So there are, what do you call, cheat books. What do you call, cliff notes, we say when I was in school, and that have the answer. Oh, you're on cone 52. The correct poem answer is "The Lilies That Bloom." So you go in there and you say, you ask the koan, you say, "The lilies that bloom," and you get past next. Because you're supposed to memorize it, because the teacher, the proper Zen priest, just knows these. Like if you're a lounge singer and someone says to me, "Would you please sing My Way" or "Melancholy Baby," you just have it in your repertoire. A Zen priest was supposed to memorize these songs, memorize these stories, even if they didn't understand them, you see. Well, that I don't think is good. Other people went and said, all you need to do is focus on one phrase. And this is a lot of what you call the Sambo Kyodan or extreme Rinzai approach. If I just took, instead of the whole koan, just one word, like here we have a koan about a boat we're going to start. And if I just focused on and said, boat, 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 and just all day boat, 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 until my spirit merges with the boat, and sweat pours from me, and I have a great mystical experience beyond all understanding. That's one way to approach that. And they do that in some schools, such as some of the mixed Soto, the Sambo Kyodan schools that focus on koan study that have become very popular in the West. That's one way they do it. But, as I say, in the Soto school, we tend to look at the koan, try to really understand it in the bones. As we say, see it with the ears and hear it with the eyes, not just philosophically. Okay? So that's what we're going to be doing today. I always start with the main case, because not the preamble, because the main case is what it's all about, and the preamble is really just somebody riffing on that. So let's go to number 51. Hogan's by boat or land. Attention! Hogan asked Kaku Joza, "Did you come by boat or by land?" He was coming to visit the temple or to come as a new student. Kaku Joza replied, "By boat." Hogan said, "Where is the boat?" Kaku answered, "The boat is in the river." After Kaku left, Hogan asked the monk beside him, "Tell me, did that monk who was just here have the Zenai or not?" Again, this is an example of how our normal logic and our so-called Zen logic somehow are different sides of the same coin, but it's not our usual way of looking at things. How'd you get here? I caught a plane. Where's the plane? At the airport. Of course. Right? But in Zen, where are you coming from and where are you going? If there's no place to go but here, where is the boat? How far away is the river? We have a birthday girl here today, and this is a very good koan for her, because in life, where are you trying to go and where are you coming from? How far away is it? Now, koans also don't necessarily have just one approach to them, too. They're a little bit like songs or stories or poems that they can mean different things to the reader's heart, too. So someone pointed out that this might also be a reference to the raft. You know, Buddha said our practice is like a raft, and when we become enlightened and we reach the other shore, we say, in our Heart Sutra, we say, gone, gone, gone beyond to the other shore. We put the raft down and we're free. Master Dogen spoke of practice enlightenment, and he said, in his way, he believes the raft has never been picked up, can never be put down, and we're always carrying the raft. In other words, there is nothing but this practice right here. And you always have the boat. You always have the raft. Dogen liked many sailing analogies, and he said life is like sailing in a boat. This is from, I think, Ski, one of his sections on the moon, or it may be from Shisho, Life and Death, section of Shobo Genzo. And he said, life is like sailing a boat. You're a sailor, you're on the deck. There's the wind, there's the sails. You have a stick in your hand, and you're pushing the boat. The shore is passing. But he said, can you see that wind and boat and sea and sailor and stick and shore are one? And that as the shore passes you, you are passing the shore. It's all this great working, this great dance that you are. So we're always coming, we're always going, and yet there is no place to go, and there is no place to come. And we leave the boat behind, but we never can leave the boat behind, because this life right here is just the sailing right here, and the stick is always in your hand. Like a good sailor, try to avoid the storms. Keep in the good direction. But when the storm just comes, just batten down the hatches, close the doors, get under in the dry place if you can, and sit some zazen, I guess. But as best you can, we are always sailing. We're always trying to choose the good course. Please choose the course of peace and gentleness. Don't choose the course of hate and anger and greed and attachment. You see, there's good sailing and bad sailing. This is the Zen-I. All of that may be summed up here in this koan. That there is no boat apart from you right here. That it is constant sailing in your life. And yet, in purely practical terms, if you got to get to New York, you go to the airport and get on a plane. Of course, it's all true. All true. This is all of life, all the world, looked at from different angles, and that angle with it beyond all angles at all, you see. So let's look at some of the poetic references here. Worldly dharmas, I guess dharmas here would be things and teachings. Worldly things and teachings enlighten many people. Buddha Dharma deludes many people. Suddenly become one. Can there be any delusion or enlightenment? I'll let you take that as you will, but perhaps the Buddhist teachings are not something far removed at all. They're absolutely intimate with all the messiness and clutter and stuff of this world we live in, if you can see. This is the sailing right here, in your life today. The appreciatory verse. Water does not wash water. Gold does not trade for gold. Ignoring its color, obtain a fine horse. Without its strings, enjoy a lute. Tying a knot, divining with sticks. Then there is this matter. Utterly lost is true, innocent, ancient mind. What does that mean? I could lie to you and tell you I have much of an idea. I have very little idea exactly what that's about. But let's say that water does not wash water, gold does not trade for gold. The purity, the gold is all around us, maybe something like that. This whole world is pure. This whole world is gold. The fine horse does not matter about the color. Don't worry about the appearances of this world, the external things, even if it's an ugly darn horse. If it's a fine horse, it's not about the outward appearances. So it is perhaps with this world. See the fine horse, see the gold, see the pure water beyond outward appearances. Without its strings, enjoy a lute. Can you hear the harmonious, beautiful music of this world that is not a matter of there being strings on the instrument? It's just a silent sound that resonates through all things. Maybe something like that. tying a knot, divining with sticks. I have not a clue what that's about. Then there is this matter. Hi, can you hear again? Okay. I just got to the line that said utterly lost, and we were utterly lost. Being utterly lost in this world of confusion in your own life, if you have the eye of wisdom, don't get lost in the appearances. Don't judge the horse by its colors. See the true horse of this life. See the water, the gold, even if it's hidden in the dirt and the mud. Find the place of not going or coming, whether you're on the boat or off. Something like that. See, these teachings are actually very practical for your life too. This is not just like a few philosophical woo-woo understanding. There was an old Chinese bureaucrat who wrote to a Zen master 1,000 years ago, and he said, I'm going to study Zen as soon as I retire. And the Zen master said to him, where do you think you're going to find Zen? It's right now in your messy, complicated life. You're on the boat right now. Where do you think the boat and the river are to be found? You see, this is about your daily life. You need to find this simplicity, this place you cannot go or come from. You need to find it on your craziest, utterly lost day. That's what this is about. Okay, let's go to Sozan's Dharmakaya. I like actually putting 2 or 3 koans together. Usually teachers these days, they tend to take one koan, give a talk about that koan. But they cite other koans. If you put 2 or 3 koans together, they kind of, how to say, reflect and bounce off each other. And maybe you see the deeper reason that the author put these koans side by side in the collection. Attention! Sozan asked Tokujoza. Buddha's true Dharmakaya is like the vast sky. Its conforming to things and manifesting shapes is like the moon in the water. How can the principle of conforming be expressed? Toku said it's like the donkey seeing the well. Sozan remarked, well said, but that's only 80% of it. Toku rejoined, how about you, Osho, great priest, Osho, or priest? Sozan replied, the well sees the donkey. This Dharmakaya is that approach, not approach, wrong word, that state of being beyond being or non-being, beyond life and death, beyond you and me, and all opposites, all categories. There's a realm of Big B Buddha where we don't even put the name Buddha on it because no names apply. It's not nothing, but yet we cannot even say it's a thing. When we drop all human categories, analysis, mind, there's something, a horse so pure, we don't call it the horse. Gold so golden, we don't even call it golden. There's something. Maybe it's the root that all religions are pointing to in some way. That is beyond all human names and categories. And but sometimes we say in Zen things like your true self, Buddha with a big B, not the, I'll talk about that in a second, not the little b Buddha, but the big B Buddha. Sometimes some people might say God. Other people might say the universe. Other people might say Stanley or Mary Or some people might just stand there with their mouth open like that. We have a statue in the corner here of a guy. Look, look. Some people think that statue, they don't like it, but I think the guy's just standing there with it going like this. Wow. I wish I could show you. It's a guy doing this in a statue. And this is the Dharmakaya. And guess what? In Buddhism, part of our sitting in Shikantaza and in Koan Zazen too, when they're concentrating, for example, on boat, 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 or moo, 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 or we're sitting here just sitting, dropping all thoughts and categories and letting it be, and the silence and the beyond judgments, we're sitting. We realize this. We taste this Dharmakaya. That is just who we are. And the tree outside and the stars in the sky are just this Dharmakaya beyond all categories. But yet this Dharmakaya too is this world of complexity. It's the horse's color, it's the mud, it's the dirt, it's the beauty and the ugliness of this world. You see. So if you can see the Dharmakaya as something over there, you're like a donkey who sees the well. Oh, Dharmakaya, God, Buddha, whatever, Stanley, you're over there. Universe, the rest of the world, you're out there. But when you can see the, I don't know, maybe a physicist said it's the universe seeing the universe, or the Dharmakaya seeing the Dharmakaya, then maybe you get some more sense of this. Dogen had a lovely reference to, it's like the moon in the water. The moon for us in the clear, open, boundless sky is a symbol of enlightenment, this Dharmakaya. And I'm just going to read these passages from his Genzo Koan. Enlightenment is like the moon reflected on the water. The moon does not get wet, nor is the water broken. Although its light is wide and great, the moon is reflected even in a puddle an inch wide. The whole moon and the entire sky are reflected in dewdrops on the grass, and even in one drop of water. Enlightenment does not divide you, just as the moon does not break the water. You cannot hinder enlightenment, just as a drop of water does not hinder the moon in the sky. The depth of the moon is the height of the moon. Each reflection, however long or short its duration, manifests the vastness of the dewdrop and realizes the limitlessness of the moonlight in the sky. And also, to divide the world is what human beings do with our categories and thoughts and judgments. But to go beyond that is not only to see the Dharmakaya, but to be seen by the Dharmakaya seeing the Dharmakaya beyond all Dharmakaya, or any other name you want to put on it. Dogen may express that in this next passage from the Genjo Koan. To carry the self, the little self, forward and illuminate myriad things, all the things of the world, is delusion. That myriad things come forth and illuminate the self is awakening. To study the Buddha way is to study the self. To study the self is to forget the self. To forget the self is to be actualized by the myriad things. When actualized by the myriad things, your body and mind, as well as the bodies and minds of others, drop away. No trace of realization remains. So enlightened, even words like realization and enlightenment don't remain. And there is no trace, and this no trace continues endlessly. When you first seek Dharma, you imagine you are far away from its environs, its borders. At the moment when Dharma is correctly transmitted, you are immediately your original self, which you have been all along. Just looking quickly at the preface. Having opportunity and not seeing a Buddha. I'm reading the wrong case, but it's okay. Preface. All knowledgeable persons are able to learn by parable and analogy, but when comparisons cannot be made and when it's impossible to find something similar or identical, how can it be expressed? Again, we're talking about something beyond comparison, and you're asking me to to explain it. How can I explain? I'm going to do my imitation of that statue in the corner again. For people listening on the podcast, by the way, it's just a guy standing there with his mouth open. There, I've expressed it. Sometimes the Zen masters would take their stick and they draw a circle in the air like this, you know? Or beat the table. What can you say? The poem, the appreciatory verse. Donkey sees the well sees the donkey. Wisdom contains, without exception, purity permeates more than enough. Behind the elbow, who discerns the sign? Within the house, no books are kept. Loom threads don't hang, a matter of the shuttle. Patterns emerge every which way. The intent differentiates itself. Again, I leave this to each of you, but I think the images, for example, books in the house or the threads of on the loom, all the separate threads are the great tapestry, you see. You are part of this great tapestry. It's all a great house with the separate things are all the things in the house, like the books in the library, but yet it's all just a house, and you are one of the books on the shelf. It's a great painting, and you're a stroke, but it's all that one painting, you see. You cannot separate the whole from the parts or the parts from the whole. The whole are the parts in most intimate way, and the whole parts are the whole as whole can be, something like that. Every drop of the river is the river, but all the river is contained in every drop. All the Dharmakaya, or whatever you want to call it, all of Stanley, is you. On your birthday, just take this. No, there's no place to go or that you need to go. Even as you try to get there. When you try to get home, you're still going to have to head to the airport. Okay, let's see. One more quick one. I think we'll go to Obaku's dregs. Attention! Obaku addressed the assembly saying, all of you without exceptions are eaters of wine dregs. That means, secondhand, you're eating fast food instead of the real meal, something like that. You're eating the leftovers. You're not getting the real deal, something like that. Going on pilgrimage here and there, when will there ever be a day for you? Don't you know there are no Zen teachers in all of Tang, China? At the time, a monk who was there stepped forward and said, what about those everywhere who have disciples and lead assemblies? I didn't say there's no Zen, just that there are no Zen teachers. And this is another koan that's usually taken a few different ways. Number one is you can listen to me babble on here for a half hour and sit here with my mouth open. Here I'm doing it again. But in the end, you have to do all the heavy lifting and the heavy sitting with your me, myself, and I, and find this for yourself. It's not something that can be taught. The so-called Zen teachers, kind of like a guy pointing the road. Oh, it's over there. Make a left. Don't go right. Right is, I suggest you go left. But you got to do the walking yourself and find this. The other thing, how can you teach something beyond categories when there's no teacher, teaching, or taught? It's that undivided and whole. So of course there are Zen teachers, and there are boats, and there are rivers, and there are airplanes, and there are horses, and mud and gold, and war and peace. Of course, we live in that world. But we're talking about something so beyond categories, you cannot even call it Buddha. By the way, again, I was talking about the big Buddha. We say the Dharmakaya, the big Buddha. And then there was the historical Buddha, who was the guy who lived in India. And we're not going to get into all the Buddhist philosophy on this, but all of these perspectives are true in their way, you see, if your heart is open to it. But it's not something that can be taught, nor is there anything to teach, because there's nothing separate that you need to learn. It's how to say it, maybe. It's like the eyeball trying to learn the eyeball. I think it doesn't sound so good in English, but in Chinese it sounds very nice. They say that. So ZAZENKAI say it. It's like the eyeball trying to see the eyeball. Doesn't sound so good in English. So, having opportunity and not seeing the Buddha. You may miss the Buddha because the Buddha is so close that there's no separate Buddha to see. Great enlightenment has no teacher. Human emotions are eliminated by the sword that regulates heaven and earth. Holy understanding is forgotten in the activity that catches tigers and buffaloes. Tell me, what stratagem is this? Let's go to the verse. Roads being split, threads being dyed, catching at leaves and linings of flowers, subtly grasping the handle that educates southerners. I wrote about this in the forum if you want to see some of the references. Tangles and shards, downy hairs razored off, a balance scale, a mirror, a golden sword. I'll just very quickly kind of summarize this. In our Zen, sometimes we talk about the sword that does not cut things apart. It cuts what's apart and puts it together again. In fact, it's the sword so whole that there was nothing to cut or could be cut from the first. It's not the scale that measures. Measures is to divide and weigh, right? To judge. It's the scale that unmeasures, unjudges. Anyway, there's nothing to judge. It's the mirror that accepts all images in the mirror. The ugly, the beautiful, the tall, the short, the young, the old. The mirror makes no judgment. The mirror rejects none of it. The mirror holds it all. The mirror is it all. Images like that. These separate threads are just the tapestry. The leaves are just the tree. That's, by the way, one of the places the tree leaf name came from. Are the leaves separate from the tree, or are the leaves just the tree itself? Can you have a tree without its leaves? Are they separate things? Not at all. The leaves are, in most intimate sense, the tree itself, and each leaf contains the entire tree to the wise eye that can see it. Anyway, there was one more koan here on Kannon, and we're going to leave that for next time. I'll just say this, that Kannon's compassion is as natural as reaching for a pillow. That also has a few kind of meanings, ways of looking at it. Number one, in your life this week, just be gentle, just be good. But there is also the compassion that's so present in the whole universe, the gold that's not a matter of goldness, the water that's not a matter of waterness. There's a compassion to this world, a balance, a harmony that's so balanced and harmonious. It's there even when it's like the water lost in the mud. Even in your life in utter confusion, there's a compassion that's present in this universe. That's what that koan's about. We'll talk about that more in the forum and dance with it in the coming days. Okay? We got a couple of minutes. Any questions? Or have I really scared everybody off at this point? You're all going to run off and join the Baptist church after you hear this, or just be more committed than ever to your atheism. What is it? Anything? Someone? I saw a slight movement from Daizan. That was the only way I knew that you're still not there. We haven't lost the signal again. One of my priests, I volunteer you to ask a question. Yes, Daizan. Turn the microphone on.
I don't have a question. I just, for some reason, I love hearing about the Dharmakaya. I just love it. You never talk about that, but I love to hear you talk about it. That's all.
Can't talk about it. Okay, let's all, to show our understanding, let's all do this. Ready? For those on the podcast, we're all going to have our mouths open. Ready? 1, 2, 3. That was more valuable than any nonsense I said today. Let's close the sutras.
May the merits of these teachings penetrate into each thing in all places, so that we and every sentient being together may realize the Buddha's way. All Buddhas throughout space and time. All Bodhisattvas, Mahasattvas, Maha, Rajna, Paramita.
Okay, Zazen is not a matter of long or short. Let us now have a short Zazen. You can stay where you are, go back to the cushion as you wish. Remember, we don't bow after the bell is rung. One exception is the guy who rings the bell bows to the bell. Zen has all these rules. The guy who rings the bell, if you ring the bell, then you should say thank you to the bell. You give a little gasho. But if you're not the bell ringer, you just sit still like a mountain when the bell is rung, and you do not bow after the bell is rung. Zen is about freedom. That's why we have all these rules. Hint, hint. Zazen? have a long canyon. This is the way it's supposed to be. We will now recite the metaverses with Zazen. You want to sit there?
Is that the Zafu or is that Is that the Zafu? I don't know. Which is it's awfully small. Is it comfortable? You're sure? It's one of the smallest Zafus I've ever seen. Is that the size? Well, you can compare. I mean, this one to that.
It is, but it's very
As long as it's comfortable. Okay. It's like a mini, is it? It's cute.
See, it's a cute software. Right. As long as I'm up here, I'll show you the little statue in the corner of the Zen master giving a shout. See that? Oh, it's hard to see from here. Maybe I'll take a picture and post it later. I moved it out here in part because my mother-in-law didn't like it. And she said in Japanese, the face was a little scary. What was he shouting at? So I moved it out here. The Buddha and the Dharmakaya are one thing, but always listen to your mother-in-law. That's what I say. Okay. Well, we will be reciting the metaverses. I guess I'll be reciting for my mother-in-law, among us other people today. As you know, these are our little contribution back to make this world better. Next week, when we look, or tomorrow, when we look at the koan on compassion from Kannon, we'll see that there's compassion in many ways. There's the compassion through our words, thoughts, and acts that we do that make this world a little better. And then there's the compassion, too, that's prevalent in this world everywhere to the wise eye that can see, even in the moments and times that don't seem compassionate at all. Well, this is our delving into both of those, because actually every word, thought, and act of peace and love and generosity we bring into this world makes this world a little bit nicer. Just as every drop of anger and division and greed that we bring into this world makes it just a little bit more broken. So when we recite the metaverses, truly feel this in your heart. We begin with ourselves. There's nothing wrong with wishing all this peace, contentment to ourselves, then someone we love, then a friend, then a stranger, maybe someone we met in passing this week and barely noticed, then a difficult person, with the idea that if they too had known this peace and compassion in this life, they wouldn't be suffering or so violent or angry in their way. And then we chant for all sentient beings. Okay? Let's begin with ourselves. May I be free of suffering. May I feel safe and still. May I be free of enmity. May I be loving, grateful, and kind. May I be healthy and at ease in all my ills. May I be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. We say healthy and at ease in all our ills because even though we hope we're healthy, there will be times when we're not, and at that time we need to be content even in that. Okay, now for someone we love. My mother-in-law. May she be free of enmity. I almost got a laugh there, boy. She yells at me sometimes. May she be free of enmity. I'm sorry. I got it all mixed up. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all their ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. There's a Japanese cultural tradition. They actually make TV dramas about this, about how the mother-in-law is supposed to, if it's the mother-in-law is supposed to pick on the daughter-in-law, if it's the son's mother, and the other way around too. So it's funny. My mother-in-law just does it to me because that's what the cultural expects. You know, she comes in the house and she starts going at me, and it's just beautiful. And I just go, yes, ma'am, yes, yes, ma'am. So, all right. Next is for a friend. Okay. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Yeah. Okay. Next is for a stranger, someone we've barely met. Let's see. May she be free of suffering. May she feel safe and still. May she be free of enmity. May she be loving, grateful, and kind. May she be healthy and at ease in all her ills. May she be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Next is for a difficult person, someone perhaps in the news. I have someone in my mind. Okay. May he be free of suffering. May he feel safe and still. May he be free of enmity. May he be loving, grateful, and kind. May he be healthy and at ease in all his ills. May he be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. Okay. Now we'll chant for all sentient beings everywhere. May we be free of suffering. May we feel safe and still. May we be free of enmity. May we be loving, grateful, and kind. May we be healthy and at ease in all our ills. May we be at peace, embracing all conditions of life. I don't want people to think I was saying something bad about my mother-in-law. Really, she's a lovely, sweet woman, and she doesn't go at me that hard. It's part of the culture. She's supposed to do it. It's like, you know, Jewish mothers are supposed to make you feel guilty. You know, it's kind of the Japanese version of that. Italian mothers, they all got their thing. Well, my mother-in-law's here. Sometimes I intentionally, you know, do things around the house like I'll leave the dish in the wrong place just so she has something to pick on me. So it's kind of my bodhisattva service to her. Gives her a meaning in life. You know, she comes here to straighten me out. It's part of the meaning that she gets in her retirement. Okay, shall we sit for a few minutes? I'll ring the bell. We will now recite the verse of atonement and the 4 vows.
All harmful words, thoughts, and acts ever committed by me since of old, on account of beginningless greed, anger, and ignorance, born of my body, mouth, and mind. Now I atone for them all. To save all sentient beings, O beings numberless, transform all delusions, O delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, the reality is boundless, to obtain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, O beings numberless, to transform all delusions, O delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, the reality is boundless, to obtain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable, to save all sentient beings, O beings numberless, to transform all delusions, O delusions inexhaustible, to perceive reality, the reality is boundless, to obtain the enlightened way, a way non-attainable.
Okay, everybody, one more time. Wow, we're alive. Happy birthday. All right. Let's say hi to everyone's out here. Sekishi and some folks had to drop away. Sergey, good to see you. Onkai. Jishin, always good. David, hi. And all the folks at home, all the ships at sea. We have our ZAZENKAI with Brad Warner tomorrow night. I hope, or Sunday actually, where you are. I hope you can join us. And also Remember, all the teachers, another meaning of there are no Zen teachers, it means that all the folks in the world are teachers. The guy who cuts you off in traffic, the guy who gives you a helping hand when you need, your mother-in-law, everyone is our Zen teacher. So make that our theme for this week. Okay? See you guys later. Thanks, everyone. Bye.